Hi, I'm Nurse Barb, and this is your daily dose. Lately, a lot of us do not want to use any apps to track our periods. And that's because we're concerned that people are selling that data and we're not really sure what they're using it for. So if you want to track your periods, how do you do it without putting it on your smartphone? Well, we're going to go old school and do it the old-fashioned way. I'm over 60, so when I was tracking my periods, we use calendars. So I brought one because this is an easy way for you to track your cycles. And I've got a couple of examples for you. This is a 23-day cycle because we start counting from the first day of a cycle to the next first day of a cycle. And you can do it very simply by just putting a star on the calendar and just keeping track of how many days you bleed and how often they come. Not everyone has a 28-day cycle. In fact, very few women do. The average range is between 21 and 45 days. So if you're coming anywhere in that range, that's considered normal. For women who are not using any hormonal birth control, that means no birth control pills or no hormonal IUDs or implants, this is a good way to track your cycles. But for women who are using contraception that includes hormones, many times they don't have a period or their periods come very infrequently. And that's normal because they're getting a balance of estrogen and progesterone. So in this case, this person starts bleeding right here and they mark it with a star. And then they bleed again here. This is actually a 23-day cycle because remember, we start counting from the first day of bleeding to the next first day of bleeding. When you're tracking your cycles, you may decide that you want to do it by keeping track of whether there's bleeding or spotting. So here you can mark down bleeding for B, spotting for S. And this cycle happens to be 26 days. When should you be concerned? Well, if your cycles are coming more frequently than every 21 days, or you haven't had any periods for more than 3 months. Also, if you're bleeding for more than 10 days, then do talk to your healthcare provider. Some women have very heavy, painful periods that can last for 10, 14 days. That's when you need to talk to your provider to have that evaluated. Many women can become anemic and very tired. If you're passing large clots and you feel like you can't get off the toilet, that's another time to talk to your provider. So I'm going to put this down for a minute and talk to you about other things to notice with a period. Sometimes you'll notice that the discharge when you wipe or on your underwear kind of looks like dark brown coffee grounds. What's that? Well, that's old blood, and it means that there's just a little bit of old blood. As it moves its way down the vagina, it oxidizes, and that's what turns it brown. If it's pink, that's just a little bit of spotting, that means it's fresh blood. Sometimes it's dark purple. Sometimes there's large clots. As long as you feel fine, as long as you're not too tired, as long as it's not more than 10 days, or the other important thing is if you're soaking through your protection in less than an hour, and that goes on for more than about a half a day, do give your healthcare provider a call. Those are things that have to be evaluated. So I hope this helps you understand that you don't need a period tracking app to keep track of your periods. You can do it kind of the old-fashioned way and keep this here. You can also put this information in a journal, and you don't have to say bleeding or spotting. You can put a star. Now, when you're thinking about preventing a pregnancy or trying to get pregnant and you're trying to figure out, well, when in my cycle am I most fertile? We know that fertility typically happens, or ovulation typically happens midway between cycles. And if you have a long cycle, if it's more than 30 days, then what you want to do is you want to keep track of your cycles for a few months. And if you're pretty much typically 35, 40 days, what you do is you count backwards 14 days. So let me show you what that means. So if you have a very, very long cycle and your periods typically start, let's say on the 20, let's say here, and you didn't have a period, you've had a long cycle, so you started bleeding here, and the previous period was the month before. What you do is you say, well, here's day 25 here. So you count 2 weeks, right? And this is when typically ovulation occurs, about 2 weeks prior to the start of the period. And so what we know with ovulation is that there's a couple other signs. Sometimes the cervical mucus will be very thin and clear. It will look like uncooked egg whites. So you can notice that when you wipe, when you go to the bathroom, or some women will insert their finger into the vagina, check on the mucus. It also will spread apart. That's called spin barkite, but it spreads apart. It's kind of stringy. That tells you that that's fertility or ovulatory mucus. And that helps nourish the sperm as they're heading on their way up to try to meet an egg. So if you notice that kind of fertility mucus about 2 weeks before your period, remember that can happen 4 to 5 days before actual ovulation occurs. And a couple other things to keep in mind. When we ovulate, the egg only lives for 24 hours, but sperm can live for 5 days. That means you can have very thin cervical mucus, let's say on a Sunday or Monday, not ovulate until Thursday of that week. But if you have sex on Sunday or Monday, the sperm will still be there and it's possible that you'll get pregnant. If you're not interested in pregnancy right now, if you want to plan your fertility, then do use a condom or other birth control methods so that you can plan the right time for you to start a family. I hope this answers your questions. And if you've liked this video, please click on like and subscribe, and I'll be bringing you a lot more. Take care and be well.